He's here. What you see here in front of us are those visuals of the president arriving and him being given a brief or an update from the provincial premier as well, the premier of the province, Panyaza Lesufi, as well as the mayor, Kabelo Kwamanda, all here to welcome the president really, and all the other officials who are here are all from the emergency services, just ready to give him that update. You will remember that in our earlier conversations we did talk about the fact that there was an inspection of the building to determine the structural integrity of the building. We do understand that the building or its integrity has somewhat been compromised after the fire. We understand that there are parts where the wall has really just fallen off, and there are concerns, or there are concerns that the building has now become a safety hazard. Now you will remember that emergency services received information that this building was burning in the early hours of the morning. The death toll skyrocketed, or rather climbed, from 10 or going all the way to over 70, and it seems as though one person has passed away and succumbed to injuries in hospital. We also do understand that there are those who are still receiving medical care inside hospitals or in hospitals around Gauteng. Those include Helen Joseph here in Johannesburg. But these are live visuals of the president arriving and getting that brief from emergency services as well as from the premier. Now you will remember that earlier the premier spoke to the brief, to the media rather, ahead of the president's arrival, where he said that the president will be giving an update as to how they will try and address this issue of buildings and explosions, that buildings catching fire and explosions, say that they have seen what looks like a trend not only in the Johannesburg CBD but also in Boksburg, and they will be in the city of Ekurhuleni, and they are looking to find long-lasting solutions, but those will be discussed with the president before he is then able to come back to us and give us an update and a way forward as to what will happen. You would have heard that there are some criticisms from all around, really, Saftu saying that, you know, the government needs to do more in terms of providing social housing or adequate social housing, and that, you know, the blame, or rather the accusation that NGOs, particularly those around human rights, are being used as a scapegoat for government's failure to really provide social housing. You would have heard earlier in earlier briefings and earlier conversations that there were some concerns and accusations that, you know, these NGOs are really stifling the work of the municipalities in order to reclaim these buildings and these hijacked buildings. These are the live visuals, and as you'll see the motorcade, you'll see police vehicles or traffic authorities are also here, and the media houses are also here, and you know, we also see that there are a lot of fire trucks. So we are going to try and move towards the president, but there is a cable or a time cable in front of us. Let's see if we can try and go in front and see if we can't get closer to the president. But we are, the picture is going to be shaky, but we are going to try and move Well, it's going to be handheld. Just bear with me, Iman. Please bear with me, Iman. Please bear with me, Iman. The picture is shaky. It's shaky, but we are really just moving in. No, is she? She's a weird. Go see if you can. Can you see the president now?
We have to go on that side, bro.
Other side, it was a clinic. Then it was clinic because of some structural compliance. Then also but let me take the opportunity to appreciate in terms of assistance that came from EFS and also the city, in particular the government. They make it a point that they assist the residents and so also the family, everyone that is being affected here is being assisted. As they are here now, CMs here and EMs here and the speakers here, all the MNCs were also here to assist everybody that is affected. There's a challenge in president. There's always some people are still staying outside, even though the CPM organized place for them to stay. Because they say their belongings are still inside, but they cannot go inside because the buildings will say it needs to be fenced off. And the social engineers, they also need to come out to check so that they can finalize the report before anybody can come and take his belonging or her belonging. For now, nobody can come in. We are facing that challenge because the residents, the people who are staying here, the victims, they don't want to go. They are scared that maybe their belonging will be lost, they will be stolen. That's the challenges that we are having.
Present, maybe together with the municipality, just take a walk around the corner and then we'll then
Very difficult. Sort of possible. But
Mali.
Colleagues, Mali. This is what you're doing now.
You heard from our reporter a little bit earlier on that we are expecting a briefing from the president. No doubt he will have some words to share at the conclusion of his visit. But just some interesting details really on the building itself. We understand it is an historic building, and it is under the ownership and on the registry of the city of Johannesburg. It was the old Albert Street Pass Office, and that's where the lives of African people in our country used to be controlled via the Dompass system. And it was apparently declared a heritage site, so some questions to be asked for those who are responsible for looking after buildings like that as to why it was essentially, left vulnerable to unscrupulous forces and syndicates, potentially criminal gangs, who have taken over that building. And based on some of the narratives we heard a little bit earlier on, it seemed as if the inside of that building resembled what you would see in an informal settlement. Well, let's talk now to the Inner City Federation General.
Okay, Vincent, where's Vincent?
So this is tragic. This is very sad, and I want to pass my condolences and that of the government to the families of those who have passed on and those who are still in hospital. I'm told that as soon as the fire was reported at 1:19 in the morning, in 10 minutes the firefighters were here. That is a real good and quick response, which we must recognize on the part of the province, the city, that they have been able to be ready for calamities and events like this. A response of 10 minutes when there's such a devastating fire is something that needs to be recognized. The sad part is that much as they fought the fire, they were not able to save everyone. And some people were saved, up to 49, but it's said that we've lost up to 74 people, and some of them children, who must have died very, very tragically. And this is the type of death that we never wish on anyone. And the aftermath of all this, in terms of the actions that have been taken, I have found to be in line with what we expect. The people were taken to hospitals, those who were still in a state of shock and injury, to the surrounding hospitals. And those who have lost their homes or accommodation are going to be catered for. The ministers and the MECs and the province and the city are working now full out to make sure that those who need assistance, from accommodation to trauma counseling to hospitalization, are being looked after. Now, obviously, this needs to be investigated. I was talking to the Premier earlier, and we are going through, and they are going through the process of setting up an investigation process, which Premier and the city will announce in due course. We've got to go to the bottom of what caused this fire, and also address from now on. It's a wake-up call for us to begin to address the situation of housing in the inner city. That a building like this, which I'm told used to be a home for abused women and children, once the lease had expired, it was then hijacked, and we need to get on top of this and find effective ways of dealing with problems of accommodation, of housing, and services in the inner city. So the people who are, the mayor is here, the municipal manager, and members of the mayoral committee, like Councillor Dada, Morero, and others are here. And they will be applying their minds, and I want them to find solutions and better ways of dealing with the challenge of housing that we have in the inner city. So once again, condolences to the families of those who have lost their lives, and I know that people will be upset and fearful, and those are issues that we've got to deal with, and we will deal with them. Thank you very much.
Okay, what?
I think this highlights the issue, as you mentioned, of the hijacked buildings and the lawlessness that comes with it, which is seemingly being allowed to happen. These people pay rent to landlords. Surely the police can crack the whip, or authorities can crack the whip on these buildings. And this is just one of 100 of buildings around the city. Why is this being seemingly allowed to happen?
Well, not that it's being allowed to happen. It's an overwhelming problem which the city, I know, has sought and has been working on addressing. This building having been, it's owned by the city, and they sought to try and get order into this building. And they were barricaded, and there were attempts that were made. And but the lesson for us is that we've got to address this problem and root and everything else, root out those criminal elements, because it is these types of buildings that are taken over by criminals who then levy rents on vulnerable people and families who need and want accommodation in the inner city. And it speaks to the type of cities that we should have in South Africa as we move forward. Poor people, yes, need to live in the city, but there needs to be order. There needs to be law and order in the inner city. And the initiatives that we are embarking on through our security forces, through Project Chanyela, is one of those that working with the city and with the province, we are going to ensure that we root out all criminal elements and restore the livelihoods of people who live in the city.
The South African Human Rights Commission has challenged parliamentarians to change the practice to allow municipalities to evict people and carry out activities without a reasonable court. Is this something that you would then consider as parliament?
Well, it's something that really needs to be considered because there are processes that government needs to embark upon from the city level, provincial level and national level. And in terms of according our people the rights that they should have, we often find that there are restrictions, impediments that stand in the way. For instance, when it comes to accommodation like this, when a building is condemned and when we can find alternative accommodation, we go through too many processes, too many regulatory impediments that then can lead to this type of situation. And so Parliament needs to look at this so as to enable us to be able to execute and put in place the rights that our people should have without going through too many difficulties and impediments. That is something that we are also looking at. There are many rules that hold us back from doing what is right by our people.
Mr. President, Tim Bigler from Newsroom Africa, when you talk about impediments, are you referring to the NGOs who want to call and said it's unconstitutional to evict people from these illegal buildings without providing them alternative accommodation? And if you say this is a wake-up call, why are you taking a death close to 80 for this wake-up call to come when illegal occupation of buildings in the city has been going on for years? And people have been saying it's a danger, people get raped, they get robbed, the violent criminals take over. Why should people have to die? Ultimately, it takes political responsibility for the lack of a permanent solution to this problem years on.
NGOs play a very important role in the life of our country. So we are not standing here to shift blame and to cast blame on anyone. And if anything, we are all responsible for the calamity that has occurred. And we need to take it in stride and say, yes, this should never have happened. And yes, we should be learning a lesson. And sometimes these are very difficult lessons that have been sort of sparked off by loss of life. But nonetheless, this is a lesson, and yes, I repeat, a wake-up call, because we don't want to see a repeat of what has happened here. So therefore, we need now to look at, yes, the regulations, the laws, and everything, because we have achieved a great deal. Our constitutional construct has given all of us the rights that we've always yearned for. But we always find that we go through a number of processes as we try to do the right thing. At the same time, there's either too many delays, too many detours that then make it difficult for us to do the right thing at the right time. So that is one of the things that we are looking at also in government, because we are a caring government. And the speed of response that has happened here goes to demonstrate the fact that at local level, at provincial level, and yes, at national level, there is that care that our government does give to our people. It may fall short, but the determination to care for the people of South Africa is a priority and a top priority at that. So thank you very much, and thank you for coming out this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Well done, guys. Cyril Ramaphosa. Sorry, just addressing the media there, of course. After that,
So these tragedies aren't repeated. He talked about taking out or cutting out the criminal element. You would have heard from our guest before we went to that crossing with the president saying that they have tried to engage with the city on many occasions, on numerous occasions, about the problem of hijacked buildings. Even our earlier guest in the 5 o'clock segment echoing similar sentiments around needing this constant engagement with the city in order to be able to get to the root cause of the problem and to do away with it for good. The president, though, saying there is too much red tape, we've got to address the root problem, cut out the criminal element, and also reflecting on the fact that in the meantime they have done a great deal in the city, but there is still too much red tape that leads to this. Parliament needs to look at this. We need to restore the rights of people. Just some of the highlights of the sentiments shared by President Cyril Ramaphosa on his site visit, or his visit to the scene of the tragedy in Marshalltown tonight.